I'm just gonna stop there and so we have a few new people in stream today. Um just gonna give you an insight on where this art form comes from. So what you can see in front of you right now, this is called whakairo, Maori wood carving. It has been in my culture for many generations. It has been passed down through the generations as well. Where does it come from? Now this art form comes from our god of the sea. His name is Tangaroa. So Tangaroa is not only the god of the seas, but he is also the god of whakairo as well. Now, how did our people discover it? Now we go back to an ancestor by the name of Rua-tupuk and Manuruhi. Now, a little heads up, there are a few variations of the story told throughout the many tribes of our country, but they all pretty much link up anyway. So the most common one that's known is when Rua-tupuk and his son Manuruhi. Wait, it should be good. Yeah. Okay. Hold up. Is everyone good? Refresh. What's going through your mind before you chisel the next spot? My back hurts. Nothing too crazy, brother, other than did I leave the oven on? What do I want for lunch? Yeah. Nothing too deep, my bro. Where was I? Oh yeah, so whakairo. Whakairo, traditional Maori wood carving. Is a way for our ancestors to tell our stories through this art form as well, passing down knowledge. Most of all, acknowledging our ancestors too through this art form. But where does it come from? So whakairo, as I mentioned, comes from our god of the sea, his name being Tangaroa. Kanaloa to some, Tagaloa to others, and he goes by many names. Now, Tangaroa is the god of the sea, but also the god of whakairo as well. Now it goes back to who discovered whakairo. How did they find it? So it all starts with Rua-tupuk and his son Manuruhi. As I mentioned, there are many variations to this story as well. But for now we'll stick to the most common one. Now it all starts with Rua-tupuk and his son, who go fishing one day. Now his son mentioned to him that when you catch your first fish, you give it back to Tangaroa as an offering, just to show respects to him. As you know, young people do, go straight over his head. Now Rua-tupuk used his fish hook, caught his first fish and gave it back immediately. Now the son wasn't really paying too much attention to that, and was watching his father catch fish after fish, wondering how come he's catching something and I'm not. And then eventually Rua-tupuk called his haul for the day, told his son, come on, let's go home, we have enough. But his son wanted to stay and try and catch some, so he asked for his father's hook, and then shortly after that caught his first fish after his father had departed to go home. He stayed back, caught his first fish, but decided to keep it. catching more and more fish, not returning one. This caught the attention of Tangaroa, and then as he cast the line back into the sea, Tangaroa grabbed it and he pulled him down to the sea. Now hours go by, as we do as parents, we get worried for our children why they haven't returned. Rua-tupuk goes back to this certain spot and notices the drag marks into the sea, and straight away knew his son didn't listen to his son didn't heed his warnings. Who's that the flash word would use? Heed his warnings. I don't even know, I don't English that well. And so Rua-tupuk decided, okay, I need to go and find my son. So diving into the sea in search of his son. As time goes by, he loses hope. Can't see a sign of his son anywhere until he notices an odd structure at the bottom of the sea. As he got closer and closer, to his shock, he saw a fully carved meeting house. And these meeting houses that we carve today, whānau, we normally name them after our ancestors. Now, Tangaroa's meeting house was called Hui Te Anganui. Pretty much. And as you got closer and closer, the structure took form. You could see a lot of these forms or these carvings on the structure, and then he saw something moving at the apex of this meeting house. Now, normally when you carve a meeting house, at the apex or at the very top, we either have a carved face or a carved figure, sometimes both. And in the instance of Manuruhi, he was that particular focal point of the meeting house. Let me see. There we go. So yeah, the apex of the meeting house there. So that's where he was mounted. As his body slowly turned into a tiko or a three-dimensional carving, he's poking his tongue out. His eyes were rolling back as he was losing breath. His father knew he had to try and rescue him, and he had to figure out a plan how he was going to rescue his son. So what he did, he waited until the dead of night to have cover, and what he did was covered every entrance of the meeting house. So normally at night, Tangaroa's children, all the denizens of the sea, took refuge in this meeting house, and he covered every entrance of that so they couldn't escape, only out of one place. Now don't at me on this, that's how OP our ancestors were back then. He set this house on fire, yes, at the bottom of the sea, and he stood out in front of the door waiting for Tangaroa's children to escape. And as each and every single one of Tangaroa's children escaped, he struck the octopus on its limbs, breaking every bone in its body. Now you see the wheke or the octopus as it is today. The flounder, he struck it on the head so hard, you see a flounder as it is today. And many other children as well. Now as this fire was raging, he could hear voices inside the meeting house. And being absolutely surprised by that, he went closer to this burning meeting house and noticed two particular carvings. Their names were Whiri and Whira. Now these two particular carvings are mentioned throughout a lot of carving history because they could talk. Now unfortunately Rua-tupuk was unsuccessful because these would have been talking to us. So what he did, he took the carvings on the outside back to the surface, and then eventually had discovered what we call whakairo, Maori wood carving. So in a sense as well, like you could look at the sea and what it does today, carving away at the land. You can look at it from that angle. Other variants of the story, one from my tribe, is it wasn't his son that got kidnapped, it was his pet tui. A tui is a native bellbird. Another variation as well, instead of a fully carved meeting house, it was a meeting house covered in kōwhaiwhai, which are designed similar to this but painted. So yeah, that's where whakairo comes from, our god of the sea. And in a way, it was a form of storytelling, or it is a form of storytelling as well. It's kind of how we recorded our history back in the day. So yeah.